I thought I'd do a casual chat type video today. So I made tea because I guess in my head I think tea is casual and chatty. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tracy, I'm a classical pianist, and I am currently struggle busing through my DMA at USC, which means different things to different people, but for the sake of this video, it basically means that I have done a lot of conservatory and music school auditions. So most of you who would click on a video like this probably already know what a music audition is, but for those of you who don't, they're basically like college entrance exams, but for music school. So you send in your basic application, your standard essays, but on top of that, you also have to send in what we call a pre-screen video. It's usually just an audition tape, and then from there, you're either invited to a live audition, or in the case of our current situation, you're invited to perform online, and then you hear back from admissions sometime in March, April. Now, I think there are already a lot of videos out there talking about the more like concrete parts of auditioning, like nerves or what mic and camera setting is best for pre-screens, that sort of thing. I can definitely do a video like that in the future, but for this one, I thought I would just kind of be a little bit more open, honest, raw about my experience, having done, I think at this point, like over 20 of these music school auditions. So for anybody watching who is about to audition, who just finished an audition, or is just kind of curious about the whole process, here are 6 things that I wish I knew before auditioning for music school. Number 1, it might feel like the most important day of your life, but it's not. This might be especially true if you're anything like me and you had your hopes and dreams set on one specific school or program. And I'm not gonna lie, whether or not you get in is mainly based around your audition. Your resume, extracurriculars, all of that will certainly help, but if you're pursuing any sort of performance degree, the main thing they're really looking for is whether or not you can perform. But how much weight you give your audition day is completely up to you. I mean, it's a 15-minute audition, maybe 20 to 30 minutes tops if you're going for grad school, but that is literally the smallest snapshot of you as a musician, your artistry, everything that makes up who you are as an applicant. And while the faculty, of course, has to judge you on that snapshot, the worst thing you really can do is to judge yourself and give any sort of worth as to who you are as a performer based on that very unique situation of a pressure cooker of an audition. I wish that I could go back and tell myself that any career in the performing arts is based on all the day-to-day choices that you make and not this one singular moment in front of a panel. Number 2 for me would be to nail down a pre-audition routine. Because unless you are feeling really confident about a school, chances are you're auditioning at multiple schools. And that usually means you're flying or driving to different cities, you're dealing with different sets of requirements, and maybe you have to make certain meetings or presentations, and you're really dealing with the stress of just a lot of unknowns over the course of a weekend. For me, something that helped was when I finally nailed down like this strictly regimented pre-audition routine. So for me, that looked like getting to wherever I needed to get to the day before my audition and going to the school, figuring out where the warm-up rooms are, where the check-in desk is, what venue or classroom the audition is going to be held, and kind of walking through that, kind of like when you were in high school maybe. I don't know if anybody did this, but like you would get your list of classes and you'd like compare with your friends and like walk through the high school together to figure out like the best way to get to different classes. I don't know, I might have just like outed myself as someone completely neurotic. This sort of things just helps calm me down because I know what to expect. Essentially, the more unknown factors that you can cross off your list of things to worry about, the better, because you get to focus on what you're there to do, which is to play. On the day of the audition, I had a very particular warm-up routine. I would warm up in the keys of the pieces that I would be playing, especially the piece that I start with, because during music school auditions, you usually get to pick the first piece that you open with. So I would practice my warm-ups in that key to kind of get myself into that mindset. I would have a very specific list of what I knew to be trouble spots in my music that I would systemically go through. And then I would put my music aside and I would just mentally go through everything I was gonna play that day, so I could give my hands a break, so I would stay fresh for my actual audition. And that routine might look completely different for you. You know how your hands work, you know how your body works, how mentally you feel prepared versus you don't, but the important thing was consistency for me, doing that every single time. I would also have like really tangible things that would be the same across every single audition. I wore the same pair of gloves, I drank from the same water bottle, I always had one of those oxygen activated heat pads that skiers use, and they put them in their gloves and their shoes as hand warmers. I would always have that. And I think I kind of like maybe Pavloved my way into feeling more confident and calm, because by the time I had set this routine for myself like a dozen times, I would just pull out that pair of gloves and immediately I could like feel my heart rate slow and settle into this, okay, I've done this before, you got this, you've done this a million times sort of mentality. Number 3 is, if you're going to do a trial lesson with a faculty member during your audition weekend, do it after, not before. I'm gonna swear by this one because I had an audition experience where I put my trial lesson before my actual audition, and it resulted in maybe the most scarring audition experience I'd ever had. Story time. If you don't already know, a lot of students will reach out to potential faculty members that they want to study with at these schools and kind of try and coordinate a trial lesson. It's really good if you want to test out student-teacher chemistry, and it's always a good idea to get a little bit of FaceTime outside of just the audition. So the teacher that I wanted to study with couldn't do a lesson after my audition, so we scheduled it for before, and the lesson itself went totally fine. It was just that he had a completely different interpretation of one of the pieces that I was bringing in, so we spent a lot of time reworking a lot of things in a way that I wasn't used to at all. So fast forward 18 hours and I'm sitting in my audition playing the same piece, and all I can think about are all these corrections and advice that he'd given me the day before and how I am just completely blatantly ignoring it. And I'm trying to like telepathically communicate to him, like, I'm not disrespecting you or your time, like I really appreciate everything that you said. I just didn't have the time to work it into the way that I've been playing this piece. And at the same time, I had this like irrational sense of shame that I just wasn't a good enough pianist to incorporate these things immediately as they were given to me. Long story short, it wasn't my best audition. I think I drowned in my own anxiety sweat. But lesson learned, I never put a trial lesson before my audition, always after. Number 4, be prepared to be unprepared. Basically, every school is different. Every combination of faculty panel that you might get is going to be different. So be prepared to feel maybe a little bit thrown off during your audition potentially. So they might ask you to start from the middle of a piece, or they might ask for a movement that you never thought that they would ask for, or let a certain piece run for much longer than you would expect given the 15-minute time limit. If I could say anything to somebody who's preparing to audition, I know it's a lot of music that they're asking for. I know it can be tempting to think, oh, they're never going to hear the repeat. I don't have to, go through my Bach suite and think about how I'm going to ornament things differently. you're going to want to feel prepared, even if there's just a very small chance that they're going to ask for something, because you never know. They might. There's also a very good chance that there's supplemental materials that your audition consists of. I've had schools test me on sight singing, sight reading, light improv, all of that stuff during my audition, and that's not something that they usually advertise to you on their website. It's something that happens during your actual audition. So I remember the first audition I ever did as a high schooler going into my undergrad. They asked me to play Happy Birthday, no score, just play Happy Birthday and improvise the left hand accompaniment. And it was something that I absolutely could have done if I had been calm about it, but because I wasn't expecting it, I kind of psyched myself out and freaked out and like had trouble even getting started because my brain was just going in a million directions at once. So just be prepared, take a deep breath. You are ready for whatever it is that they're going to ask you. Chances are you've done all of it before, so just don't let it sort of psych you out or make you nervous. My battery's dying, so we're gonna make this fast. Number 5, you are auditioning them too. This is kind of the big one that I wish somebody had told me before I went into auditioning. I think we get it into our heads that we are so honored and privileged to be able to audition at these really prestigious schools or for these faculty members that we've admired for a really long time, that we forget that this is also for us. You are essentially committing to spending all this time, investing all this money into whatever program you end up at. So it's only right if you also audition the school to see if it's a right fit for you. I think we all consider what faculty member we'd like to study under, but there's so much more that makes up a music program. Do you like their facilities? Do you like their diversity and caliber of classes? Do you like the flexibility of what you're able to do within and without the degree? Do you agree with their network ties to the communities around them? And is that something you can use to jumpstart your career? There's so many other things that go into a robust and worthwhile education in a music school. And I think it's something that I wish I was a little bit more cognizant of when I first started auditioning. My auditions for my undergrad and my master's just kind of like flew by in a blur of anxiety where I was just like so focused on how I was performing and whether or not I fit the mold of the schools that I was auditioning at. And it wasn't really until my doctorate auditions that I took a really long, hard look at the sort of classes that were being offered, the curriculum, and whether or not that was going to prepare me for what I wanted to do. And once I had that sort of alignment with the schools that I was auditioning at, interviews went so much smoother. I had a very clear vision of what life could be like at these different institutions, and I ended up at a program that kind of meshed really well with what I wanted to do as a musician. Number 6, you are going to end up exactly where you're supposed to end up. And I know that sounds like cliche BS, but I promise it's true. I'm gonna say something potentially controversial, and you don't have to agree, but I don't think that the school that you go to matters as much as people like to think. You and what you uniquely bring to the table, you're gonna go on to do a whole world of things, and your pedigree is going to be a small sliver of that. And I know in the performing arts world, everybody likes to throw around the name brand of the school that they went to, and there are certainly schools that command a lot of respect, but at the end of the day, if you're passionate about it and you know what drives you as a performer and as a musician, or if you're in the process of figuring that out, I really think that that can happen no matter where you end up. I hope the ramblings of an internet stranger rang true for you in some way. And I finished my tea, so perfect timing. Just kidding, it's like completely full because apparently I can't drink and talk at the same time. Oh, and random, but I would just like to point out that I have uploaded a full 2 times this month, which is like no big deal for anybody else, but I'm a little bit proud of it because I didn't manage that like at all last year. So we're gonna see if we can hold on to that in 2022 because I would really like to be a little bit more consistent on this channel. Anyway, thanks for watching. Follow me on all the things, like, subscribe, click all those buttons, and I will see you next time. Bye!